The cost of war. War, a word that stirs up images of chaos, destruction, and profound loss. But beyond the bloodshed and debris lies a story far more complex, a story of power, humanity, and survival. Today, I want to take you on a journey through the consequences of war, not just on the battlefield, but in the hearts and minds of those who endure it. Wars have been fought for centuries, for land, for ideology, for revenge, and sometimes simply for survival. From the ancient battles of Sparta and Persia to the world-altering conflicts of the 20th century, war has shaped our history, defined our borders, and, in many ways, forged the modern world. But at what cost? Look beyond the glory of victory and the bitter sting of defeat, and you'll see the real impact of war. The innocent lives uprooted, the families torn apart, and the communities left to rebuild from the ashes. Civilians often bear the brunt, becoming collateral damage in conflicts they had no part in starting. Women and children, the elderly, the vulnerable. They are often left with nothing but the scars of a war they never chose. Consider World War II, one of the most destructive conflicts in human history. Over 70 million people died, not just soldiers on the front lines, but civilians in their homes, bombed, starved, or caught in the crossfire. The devastation was unimaginable. Cities leveled and entire populations displaced. The psychological toll on survivors was enormous, as entire generations grappled with trauma that lingered long after the war ended. But even in victory, the losses are incalculable. The soldiers who return home often carry invisible wounds, physical injuries, mental scars, PTSD. For them, the war never really ends. The battlefield may be behind them, but the fight continues within. Today, war is no longer just armies clashing on open fields. It's cyber warfare, economic sanctions, proxy battles fought in distant lands. The weapons have evolved: drones, missiles, nuclear bombs. But the devastation remains the same. And as technology advances, so too does the potential for catastrophic loss. The global refugee crisis, for example, is a direct consequence of modern warfare. Millions of people have fled their homes in search of safety, creating one of the largest displacement crises since World War II. These individuals, forced to leave behind their countries, their cultures, and often their families, become the human fallout of geopolitical conflict. But there's another side to war, a side that isn't often spoken about. War has an undeniable impact on innovation, technology, and even culture. Many of the advancements we take for granted today, from medical breakthroughs to communication technologies, were born from the necessity of conflict. During wartime, governments pour vast resources into developing new technologies, and while these advancements often have deadly purposes, they can also lead to civilian benefits once the war is over. Still, can we ever truly justify the human cost of war? History shows us that conflict is inevitable. But does it have to be? Can we find ways to resolve our differences without resorting to violence? Without tearing apart the very fabric of our societies? These are the questions we must ask ourselves if we hope to break the cycle of war that has plagued humanity for so long. At the heart of every conflict, we find people. People like you and me, who love, who dream, who hope for a better tomorrow. And perhaps, if we remember that, we can begin to change the way we approach conflict. War may be a part of our past, but it doesn't have to define our future. Because, in the end, the true cost of war is paid not in victories or losses, but in human lives.